What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of I Don't Know What I'm Talking About Sports Podcast, your weekly podcast of sports talk with an average guy. This week's episode 2, college football is back, baby, in full force, all right? Week 1 in the books, man. And we had some upsets, had some blowouts. And some teams that showed us a little bit more than we thought they would show. And some teams really underachieved. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also today, we had my pops come through, the OG come through, and we talked Hbcu football. Talked about the players, talked about the coaches, talked about some teams that we was expecting to win. Talked a lot of good sports talk. And it's always good to talk sports talks with pops. You know, it brings me back to when I was a kid, talking it in the living room. But to get this out of the way, thank you. If you're listening again, I really appreciate it because I don't know what I'm talking about. And you came back a second time. I don't know what that says about me or what that says about you, but either way, I appreciate it. And if it's your first time listening, disclaimer, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I really do appreciate you clicking on my podcast and checking me out. You know, and we drop every week wherever you get podcasts every Monday. Come check us out. And I'm not going to talk too much on this intro because I really want to get into the show. So, like I said last time, let's get it. Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of I Don't Know What I'm Talking About Sports Podcast. Today, like I prompted earlier, I got a special guest. Y'all don't just get one Anthony, y'all get two Anthonys today. Get to talk to my father a little bit about Hbcu football and little that people don't know, might not know, besides probably Kenny, who y'all heard last week. This person I talk to sports more than anybody else, and especially when it comes to football season. So, Pop's getting right into it. Your team, North Carolina A&T, like people don't know he's an Aggie grad. You know what I'm saying? I was born and raised in Greensboro, but I chose the better path, but it's okay. We ain't got to talk about that.
Okay, better path. Okay.
But I do follow a lot what they do. Can't help it. Grew up in it. Moving to a new conference. I mean, y'all one game away from going to the playoffs last year. Took an opponent of UAB on. Let's talk a little bit what you saw, how you think y'all gonna go, and what you think.
Well, son, I watched the game. I was a little bit, anxious. We got a whole new regime in Greensboro and Aggie land, and so I was real anxious to see how it was gonna, start out. So when I was watching the game, started off, okay, but for the most part, I think they played okay. The only problem I had was we were very young and we're a little small on the defensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a concern because A&T has always had a very good defense. So I was worried about the defensive line and having all new linebackers. And some of my concerns became true because it seemed like the defensive line was getting pushed around, especially in the first half.
Yeah.
And the linebackers appeared to be a little slow. I didn't know if it was just mainly from, their being confused because UAB used a lot of misdirection and changing, making your eyes go one way but the ball's going the other. So I think that affected them a lot. But they did play better the second half.
Yeah.
The thing that I thought that was going to be there were there. The running game, which A&T has always had a good running game with several good running backs.
Yeah.
They moved the ball on the ground because I think the offensive line is very good. But the one glaring problem I think we're going to have to fix if we're going to even be, try to be, respectable this year is we're going to have to get that quarterback position straightened out. Because it seemed like the quarterbacks wasn't making any reads. They were just dropping back and not looking and just taking off running. And sometimes you need to throw the ball away. So I know that both of them are young. The two guys they had playing were very young. But we're going to have to fix that out because we can't just run the ball. Because if we just try to run the ball, everybody's going to pack the box on us. And they're going to have 8 in the box and dares to pass. So we're going to have to pass the ball to be able to run. And if we can't do that this year, we're going to be in trouble. Because I think the defense The defensive backs are okay.
Mm-hmm.
The line, they're a work in progress, and the linebackers. So we're gonna have to score some points this year, and to make sure we're there, because I think we may give up a few. I know a whole lot, but we may give up a few more than we're used to giving up. So
Yeah.
the offense is gonna have to put some points on the board. I think we'd be able to do that, but you're going to have to complete some passes. He don't have to be a whirlwind passer. We went back past 20 times a game, but you're going to have to back the defense up and make them play respectable and not put 8 in the box. Because the way we looked on this film, I think everybody from now on that we play are going to put 8 in the box and dare us to throw the ball. And that's my main takeaway. But it's a work in progress. I know the Aggies are not going to be satisfied, especially if we don't play good against that team up 85, which I don't call their name, but the team up 85 that we got to play next week. So we'll see how it goes. I'll be at that game, so we'll see how it goes.
That's and like you said, me knowing how A&T football been played, especially in the past decade, it was different seeing the defense get dominated a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I haven't even when y'all played Duke or when y'all played what's that team? Y'all beat East Carolina. Even when y'all play up in competition, the defense is never dominated. Like dominated. And I've never, and in the recent history, I've never been able not seen y'all move the ball. Like y'all moved the ball against Carolina, y'all moved the ball against Duke. The one thing that y'all have that I think is the biggest plus is y'all offensive line. Them guys, if y'all didn't see the game, them guys are nasty, they're big, and if not having 8 in the box, they gonna move people out the way. I mean, like you saw that one play, dude, with number 77, I think, physically throwing guys out the way,
Throwing guys out the
picking
way,
them up and throwing them out the way. I mean, your offensive line is nasty, and like
but
I agree with you.
You can't block 8 on 5 though. You can't block 8 on 5.
But if you just make a couple of throws, like that line is gonna give enough for your backs. I like your running back Graves. I think he's going to get a lot of carries, and if you give him holes, he runs hard. Who's that number 7 that was actually from Alabama?
I think his name is. I forgot his name, but he is from Alabama.
He
But he
got
was
the
very good.
shiftiness to him a little bit, and he run really hard. And we haven't even seen the young boy that they say can fly, that they say can really fly. So hopefully,
the freshman Blizzard. Yeah, they didn't play him in that game, so they said he can fly. But the running back stable, you saw a little bit of the Charlie Dixon kid. He played a little bit, but the running back stable is fine. But I agree with you. Our offensive line is good. They can move anybody off the ball. They can run against anybody. But you're gonna have to complete passes. And the 2 quarterbacks that played, I think Eli Brickhandler, he's the red shirt freshman, and the white kid, the JT
KJ
White,
KJ White,
KJ White from up in Virginia. Um, they're gonna have to be able to complete some passes. You ain't got to be spectacular, but you just got to complete some passes for the guys keep the defense honest, so we'll be able to run the ball. So if I think they can get that handled, the offense would be. We could really start doing something. I think the defensive front. I think the coach was used to playing a 3-4.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the lineman to play 3-4. And I think he's trying to mix it up. They did better the second half, but he's probably going to have to play more 4 down linemen and do some different variations because, they played better the second half of the game, but the first half they didn't do it good, and they didn't get a lot of pressure on their quarterback. And we had some pretty good defensive ends, but the way they was blocking it up, they didn't get a lot of pressure. The DBs, I think, will be fine.
Yeah.
And because the safety played very well, and the Rover guy played really well. But we got some issues right now. We got to get the passing game going, and we got to make sure the defensive front and the linebackers can do what they have to do against the run.
Yeah.
And if we can get some of those things straightened out, it's going to be a work in progress this year. And I know a lot of Aggies are really short patience. The coach would do himself a big favor if he could mess around and pull an upset, which I guess you got to call it. I hate to say that about that team up the street, but you got to call it an upset if we could upset the team up the street next Saturday, that would earn him a lot of goodwill because some Aggies know they're working progress. They gave him a little bit of credit. We played the FBS team, but in the past, what we're talking about in the past, that's the kind of team
that y'all beat.
That A&T would beat, or almost would usually beat.
Yeah,
Scare them enough to make them think we're gonna beat them.
Yeah, and then Coach had to know that when he took the job. If people that don't know, coming to Greensboro, that's y'all the biggest HBCU. Is
That's
nothing
correct.
that Coach won't, that Coach don't get, but Aggies expect a lot from their football team. Y'all, what, 3-4 Celebration Bowl
Yeah,
championships?
yeah, won 4 Celebration Bowls,
Yeah,
and the coach he's coming in, and the team went 7-4 last year. And then you had a coaching change, so you had some guys, you had some cover wasn't there. Now you had some transfers. And to me, I know the people talk about the running back transfers, but the people that left that graduated and transferred out on the defensive side, especially the graduates up front and the transfer linebackers and the graduate linebackers, that's having more of an effect than the star running back Tootin leaving. Because I think we're fine on the running back side. Then we had one of our star receivers, he graduated and the other one transferred. And then you can say what you want. The quarterback we have, Fowler, had been there a long time, but he was proven and he played good. And now you see it now you don't have all the quarterbacks on the roster are young. So there's things you got to work through. But hopefully they can get it and put on a better showing Saturday, because they really need to put on a better showing Saturday.
Yeah,
They really need to do that.
Switching over from another HBCU we saw play last night. If you don't know, we're recording this Saturday morning. And I'm gonna apologize to him. Howard said they had a good team, said they was gonna win, and Howard Howard hasn't won nothing in a lot of years. Did they won their first conference title since '95?
Yeah, 93, I think. That was the last time. I think when Jay Walker was there, I think that was the last time.
Exactly.
They spared one last year. But I was at that game, and Jay talks about it all the time on ESPN when they have the game. So, but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by Howard. They have a really good team. They're balanced. If that quarterback can keep on playing like that, and they got a big offensive line, and they got good running backs. So that Edgerrin James' son is there, and they got another guy that's very good also in receivers. And the defense the line played good. Linebackers were flying around. They played Eastern Michigan.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for a couple of special teams mistakes, they would have beat Eastern Michigan. They would have won that game. They dominated them. They had almost 400 yards of total offense. They played very well. If they play like that all season, I know it's different when you get in conference play because teams know you. But if Howard plays like that the rest of this season, watch out. Central and everybody else in the MEAC gonna have to watch out. Howard could easily win if they play like that, they got a really good shot of winning the MEAC and going to the Celebration Bowl. So this Howard team ain't a Howard team you used to seeing.
Not at all. And the thing about it that I like with Howard, right? Not only does he have the players, but Coach knows how to call plays. Like he had Eastern Michigan on the ropes. Like
exactly.
Them boys, they didn't know. He found where they can run. He took shots when he needed to take shots, short passes. Like he really had Eastern Michigan had to probably pull out more than they wanted to pull out in this first game because they didn't want to lose the game. Because they came roaring back, and it was 30-6, 30-9 at half. The boys shut them out in the third quarter, and if it wasn't for a questionable penalty call, I'll just say that because I ain't trying to say what I really feel, but
very questionable penalty, very questionable call. Yeah, very questionable call. They would have tied that game up. If they were driving to tie the game up, and that very questionable call with the illegal, but I got the illegal pass. Then they had a 30 yards on. They had 2 penalties that backed them up 30 yards, took them out of field goal range, and they was going in for a score. Without that, they would have tied that game up, and it would have been a whole different ball game. So, yeah, they coach, like you said, their offense, whoever called the OC or the coach, they called a perfect game. That game they kept Eastern Michigan defense unbalanced. They didn't know what was coming at them. So it was a beautifully called game. If they keep on playing like that, how it's going to be something to deal with.
Yeah, and like I said, not just the offense, the defense only gave up what 21 points.
Yeah,
Because the other touchdowns was on special teams and the safety.
yeah,
If you take that away, Howard wins that game, what, 23-21? So
yeah. They
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 played.
win they win the game. They win the game. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
The defense didn't give up. The defensive line, they got enough pressure to flush the quarterback. The cornerbacks played well. They had a pick. Linebacker, like I said, was running sideline to sideline, making all kind of plays. They, I was really proud of how. I didn't think, I'm not a Howard fan, but I was a Howard fan. Wanted them to win that game, and I was pleasantly surprised how good they played. So for anybody, which I know all the coaches probably already knew, but if you watch that game, they're gonna Howard put everybody on notice.
I think not
You're gonna
only
have
the
to
MEAC, I think they put all HBCU
every
football on notice
yeah, all HBCU and FCS football.
because they still got games against Harvard. That's what I'm interested to see now, how they play against Harvard, and they got a couple other FCS opponents that,
Outside the conference, yeah. So
outside the conference that they should beat. Now I'm not saying they world beaters can't be beat, but from what I saw, it's just different because Howard usually is not at that level. I've
yeah,
never in my lifetime I've never seen him at that level. You know,
yeah. And I
and
only saw it. I only saw him like that. Like I told you, last time they won the champ, other than the one they shared this year, was '93, and you know how long ago that was.
yeah,
So
so
I saw that, and they played good at that level. And I saw some teams back in the day, but that's the best. That's the best I've seen them play. So if they keep on playing like that, they're going to be a problem. They're going
yeah.
to be a problem.
So Coach Scott got some, which I don't probably shouldn't be surprised because Nick Saban wanted Coach Scott.
Yeah, and he
He
stayed.
said
He
no.
stayed at Alabama. He stayed at Howard and could have had a chance to go to Alabama. That's correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got something brewing up there in the nation's capital.
So yeah,
You don't have to.
that was
You don't
a
have to watch them now.
yeah, that was a pleasantly surprise. So with Saturday, this Saturday is a full slate of games. Little bit of everybody playing today. Not a little bit of everybody's playing today.
Yeah, yeah, better.
Couple of games that I am interested in. Mostly, I graduate Norfolk State. I'm of course Norfolk State, Virginia State. We should beat them. So I'm not even gonna talk about that because we don't beat them. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we ain't gonna put that in the atmosphere. Yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast if we lose to Virginia State. That's a whole podcast.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But the game that I'm interested in, of course, the Orange Blossom Classic, you can't not talk about that because I think last week you saw Jackson State dominate South Carolina State. But now you go up against FAMU, who I think is a better team. And I think this would tell me more about Jackson State than that last game did. I think.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Most definitely. This game right here, I know. We could say what Jackson State did against South Carolina State, which was impressive. I ain't gonna take nothing from Jackson State, but South Carolina State was 2-8 last year, and the way they played in that game, if they keep on playing like that, they might be 2-8 again this year. So yeah, I ain't gonna take nothing away from Jackson State. They look very impressive. The quarterback looked good, but this game right here will tell you a whole lot. Because the big deal, like I'm saying, and they playing with house money because all the pressure is on FAMU.
Yep.
Because I'm telling now, I don't know what they're gonna do. I know how I've been watching FAMU football because they're one of the rivals of A&T. But if their coach Willie Simmons, if they lose this game,
It's
it's
gonna be
gonna be
cause them
rough
to go.
down there, and it's gonna be rough in Tallahassee if he loses this game.
Yeah.
They got to win this game.
They got
I'm gonna say I'm going to put it out there. They have to win this game.
It's a must
They done
win.
been only team that stopped them from winning the SWAC the last 2 years was Jackson State, and now all the players they have a whole new team, and Jackson looked real good again. But FAMU has to win this game.
Yeah, because FAMU think it's Atlanta or bust for FAMU. It's either Celebration Bowl or bust. It's no in
That's
between.
right.
It's no in between. Staying in the SWAC, a couple other games. You know what I'm saying? For I highlight some other games, the SWAC. You got Southern and I think Alabama State playing today in the Labor Day Classic at Southern. That's a game that's interesting because I think Alabama State is one of them teams that might sneak up and could possibly make this SWAC championship. And then Southern already been to the SWAC championship. I don't know too much about the players, but just I know for if you some of these games are proven games. Like if you want to prove that you're gonna be a contender, you need to win this game. This is
Yeah,
the game you need to
yeah,
win.
and I don't know a lot about the SWAC. I watch some of it. I look out because I like a lot of HBCU football. The
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing I think Alabama State has the defense. Southern needs to show me what they can do against a team like Alabama State, because people thinking Southern should beat Alabama State. But I think the biggest thing, if Alabama State can get good quarterback play, because I don't think their quarterback
It's
play
that
is up
good.
to par. If they can get a quarterback that plays decent, Alabama State gonna be a threat. I think if their quarterback plays decent, I even think they could take this game. But if they would be a threat in the conference, even to Fam and Jackson State, if they can get good quarterback play. That's the big thing with Alabama State. So that's why
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to see, because I'm gonna be probably switching back and forth trying to watch a little bit of all these games.
yeah,
But that's the big thing there. So that's a big important game for both teams.
yeah. And staying on the proven part, the biggest game I think this week that's proven, supposed to be like you can prove it yourself. I think is that game in New York between Grambling and Hampton. Two teams. Grambling saying they supposed to be up there in the SWAC, and Hampton trying to prove that they not the doormat of the CAA.
Yeah, that's
Both
correct.
of these
Hampton,
games, I don't like to say must win this early, besides in the FAMU case, but you want to win this game. You win this game, that kind of put people on notice like, this team might be a little bit better than we giving them credit in Hampton case, or Grambling confirming. I think Grambling, they lose this game, they might have a rough season, or Hampton might just be better than we think. But I think they're in a must-win situation, especially for Hugh. Hugh can't have another losing season, and I think he keep his job. So he's kind of in a must-win, kind of like we can't go to New York and lose to Hampton, a
yeah.
team
Now,
that ain't really been good for the past 5 years.
yeah, now everybody thought you came in. They had high hopes because ex NFL coach, and I thought he was going to get Grounding back up to respectability. But I'm telling you now, to me, it's a big game for both teams. But Grambling, if they're gonna be what they think they want to be with you coming in, Grambling really needs to beat Hampton. And if he don't beat Hampton, that's gonna be that's gonna make the Graham fam look at Coach Hugh Davis
Mm-hmm.
really funny, because they don't have a problem getting rid of coaches, even though they brought him in, because he hadn't really hadn't done nothing since he'd been there. So if he could beat Hampton, that would put a big feather in his cap and calm down the rumblings, in Grambling, Louisiana, to
Yeah,
me. But now also, Hampton's always saying got them pick coming last and next to last in the CAA. And so they want to make a statement. They like to beat, especially when they play other HBCUs, they want to beat them, just like they've been beating Howard the
yeah,
last couple of years.
yeah,
So that's going to be an interesting game. That's a big game for both, but I think it's a little bit bigger for Grambling, just for their head coach and his situation he's in now, not been done very well so far in the SWAC.
yeah. And then one more game that I'm looking at. Well, probably check the stats because I really they not on ESPN Plus, but I really am interested in Morgan State playing Richmond. Richmond, the 20th ranked team in FCS. Morgan State, if you don't know, has got a lot of transfers. And their transfers to me feel a little different because they got some guys that's been proven on the FCS and FBS level. I mean, a couple of defensive linemen that was all conference in the NEC from St. Francis. They get a couple players from Norfolk State. They've both been all conference. And they got JJ Davis and they picked up Savage. Um, Morgan, this game right here, I know Coach, and I've seen Coach done won a lot of games. I don't think he's going in this as a moral victory. They're going to win this game. They're trying to win this game.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Because Morgan is a popular team. A lot of people picking as a dark horse in the MEAC, from what I've read and what I've heard. Out here on social media, and a lot of people like Morgan, and Richmond is supposed to be one of the so-called top tier teams in the CAA, which A&T is a part of the CAA now. But I would think that Morgan would go in there thinking they're probably going in to win. They're not going in there to compete. And so this would be a good barometer for them, because if they go in there and play Richmond I don't know about Richmond so much this year, but if they play Richmond pretty tough, or if they or if they even beat Richmond, I ain't gonna call it no upset. If they beat Richmond, that's gonna show a lot of what people have been saying is true, and that's gonna show uh, a lot of people that the MAC is a don't have a lot of teams, but the teams they have are all very good teams.
Yeah, and coach ain't used to, and the coach they got is a proven coach. Now he ain't used to losing, and like you can tell, I saw the press conference, tell the way he talks that he had a full season, full. Like he said last year, he didn't know everybody's name because I think they started. He got hired in July, like
Yeah, he got
really
hired
late.
real late. Yeah, he got hired
But
real late.
some of the players that he brought, like I said, some of his transfers feel different because these guys have been all conference players before. Like some of the guys he brought in were players that was not just old transfers. They were sitting on the bench. These guys have played and like at a high level. Like what last year, JJ was predicted to be offensive player of the year preseason. It didn't work
Yeah,
out at
yeah.
Norfolk State.
He brought in some different type of players. He brought in a lot of times you don't get most of the transfers. He did come from wherever. They're FBS. They come down. They hadn't played a lot, So it's all potential. He got some of the transfers proven players from FCS schools in actually in the same conference. That was all conference, second team, all conference. So they proven in the league. So that's a little bit different dynamic. And like you kind of know what you're gonna get from them. At least they got a history of doing it. So that's gonna make a difference. So, MAC has some very good coaches, experienced coaches in that league. All the coaches are experienced, not just Hbcu at South Carolina State. They have some very good coaches that have won at different places. So it's going to be very interesting to see because I know
Not
they
just
got a lot of
one,
skill.
they won championships. You can't just say they
Yeah.
just
Oh,
won.
yeah. Won championships on different levels. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they play in this preseason, pre-conference. Because one thing about MAC, it will only have so many teams. They play a lot of tough games in the preseason, that's so called. So by the time they get into their season and by the time that's over, when the champion of the conference is picked, I think that had a lot to do with how they play in the Celebration Bowl and that to do with how they have been dominating the Celebration Bowl against the SWAC. So it's going to be a very interesting season. I'm looking forward to a lot of it. It's glad football has started and you have something to watch on TV. So it's going to be very good.
Yeah, it's gonna be very good. So my last part is think that this was the best. I want to talk to you about this because we watched HBCU football, grew up in it, went to games. I don't think people on the outside understand how big the rivalries are. Like the
Oh, no.
rivalries are
Yeah.
something serious. So, for example, this week you got PV and Texas Southern playing, and even Central and Winston are playing. We're playing Virginia State. Like, I don't think people understand. Like, and I've said it before. You heard me say it. Outside of Power Five, like the Alabama Auburn rivalries, you go to these areas, like come up here like today when we play Virginia State, the rivalry is just as big. It's just as like to us, it's just as big. Like coaches can't lose to your rivals.
No. And
It,
even like you said, you got to, even if a lot of the rivals now, like I said, with that game with Norfolk State and Virginia State, even though Virginia State is a D2 and Norfolk State is a D1, it's a huge rivalry. Sometimes you have to look at it as if you're gonna have to play this game because the D2 team, they're D2, they're gonna play you hard because it's a rivalry. Some of these things go back 80, 90 years.
yeah.
So it's a big game, and you got to win, and you have to win those games, especially the team that's the D1 team now has to win. You have to win those games. So
And
you
then
like you said, y'all playing them today, Winston playing Central, and
yeah,
all those rivalries is big. And because we know, like I don't know in all the count, but I know in the MBAC teams and the former MBAC teams like A&T and Hampton, some of those games, if you can lose those games and win everything else, and people still look at you crazy the whole season. And if you lose too many of those rivals games, that could cause a coach to get fired. People might not want to believe that the coach can have a winning season, go 7-4, 6-5, 8-3, but you keep on losing to the rival. Some alumni are not going to be satisfied. That's how serious it is.
that's how I see it. Yeah, like you said, like this week it is Division II schools, but the big ones
Mhm.
are those like for the two schools that we graduated from are the ones next week. I
Yeah.
mean, it's no reason any year that we lose to Hampton. All right, like we can't lose to Hampton. It hurts recruiting. It hurts a lot of things. Like we 15 minutes apart from each other, both Division I schools. Been playing each other for forever since the CIAA. That's a game you circle every year. It's gonna be packed. Alumni's gonna be charged up, and from the band, everybody, nobody wants to lose. The band don't want to lose their battle, and the football team can't lose against your rival. Like next week, y'all play Central.
Yeah, that's correct. Like you said, with y'all, that if the coaches want to have longevity at the schools, they're gonna have to. The Hampton need to win, and Norfolk State need to win. If I know the A&T coach, we got a brand new coaching staff, and they coming into this Central game. Central beat. We lost to Central last year for the first time in about 6 years, 7 years. If he want to have a long tenure and prosperous tenure at A&T, and to build fan favor and alumni favor, he really needs to beat Central. You can't go around here losing to Central. If he loses to Central, I'm telling you, it's so serious. If he loses to Central, now people gave him a break on that. I think a little grace on that game with UAB. If he plays Central the same way and get beat back, it's gonna be rough around there. It's gonna be rough. I ain't gonna say they're gonna get fired, but they're gonna look at him really, really crazy. Yeah. And so like you said, them rivalries is that serious. Losing that game can get you fired.
Yeah, like for example, another one, like you brought up Willie. Willie, this year it's Atlanta a bust. But they was calling for his head when he was losing to Bethune. He only lost twice. He was only there for 2 years. And they were ready to fire him. Like losing to your rival in HBCU football, at not all, but at most places, is a grounds for termination. It just
it's a fireable offense. It's a fireable offense because some alumni don't care. They'll give you big lose up here, but if you lose to that rival, they want to fire
y'all. Hall of Fame coach Broadway that brought y'all team, won the Celebration Bowls and all that. He lost to Central with his first 3 years. 2-3 years.
I know he lost to Central like the first 2 or 3, and they looked at him crazy.
He was winning championships, and they was like, but you still ain't beat Central.
That's how serious it is. And he Hall of Fame coach, and he lost to Central. About I think even 2 years or 3 years. We lost to him until he finally got over and beat him, and we was winning stuff and going base and was losing to Central. Even before our first Celebration Bowl, I think they lost to Central that year. So that's how serious it is at some of these teams. Especially, I know a lot about. I know it's very serious in the MEA. When we were in the MEAC and all teams that's still in the MEAC, it's that serious. You can get fired by losing. That'll get you fired. That'll make you go house hunting again if you lose that game.
Yeah, very, very big. Well, Paul, I appreciate you coming on. It was a good conversation. I definitely love talking HBCU football with you. It was really good. I wish y'all team success besides on September 30th,
and I wish the same to y'all. You're in school. And thanks for having me on. It was a fun conversation. I always like to talk about HBCU football and football in general.
All right. So y'all stay tuned. We got a little bit more of the episode left. And then Pops, again, I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, not a problem. Thanks, son. Appreciate it.
It's always good talking football with Pops, especially talking HBCU football because that's something that we're both really passionate about. And we was able to, have a conversation like we used to. Kind of brought me back to when I was living back in the house and sitting down talking and watching football with him. So that was a really good conversation. Sitting here now on Sunday morning after a full slate of games on week 1. It was mostly a lot of, teams playing lower competition, and it was a lot of blowouts. But I do have some takeaways. Let's start off on the HBCU level. Central, the Celebration Bowl champions, dominated like they were supposed to against Winston-Salem State. Yes, it was a rivalry, but they was playing a lower level of competition, and Central beats them 47-21. Davius Richards looked like himself, and Central like they're going to be a force to contend with. A couple of surprises. Hampton beats Grambling 35-31 in the Brick City Classic in New York. Hampton looked really good. Defense made plays when they had to, and the quarterback ran for over 100 yards. And had a great they had a great game plan against Grambling. I think Hampton's going to be a little bit better than people thought, and I think people in Grambling might worry a little bit because losing to Hampton doesn't bode well for the rest of the season, but we'll have to see. But Grambling does win the Brick City Classic in New York. Morgan goes to Richmond and beat the 20th ranked team in the nation in their house, in their home opener, 17-10. I mean, Morgan State's defense looked amazing. Had 4 sacks, held them under 100 yards rushing. I mean, Morgan has really revamped that team, and I think they're going to be a contender. And watch out for them on an upset alert, or at least covering the spread when they go play FBS opponent Akron next week, because this team looks really good. Also, in a late night thriller, if you was up late Saturday night, Prairie View beat Texas Southern 37-34 in overtime. Was a real sloppy game, but once they got into the groove of things, it was pretty good, and Prairie View was able to pull it out late in the end. And my last one is that in another Labor Day Classic, Alabama State was able to beat Southern 14-10. The defending SWAC West champions did not look good on offense, and it's kind of looks bad on the coach because he's an offensive guy. But Alabama State did pull out that win 14-10. A couple of takeaways from the HBCU ranks is that, one, I think Hampton is better than people thought. I think Hampton this year got a lot of disrespect over the offseason and was picked to finish last in their conference. But going to New York and beating Grambling was a step in the right direction. Next week, they do have a big rivalry against their crosstown rivals, Norfolk State, in the Battle of the Bay. So we'll see how that goes. Another takeaway is that Morgan State and the top, well, let me say it like this. The top half of the MEAC are legit teams. I think Central is the best right now with the nod because nobody has knocked them off. But Howard looked very good against Eastern Michigan, like you heard in my conversation with my dad. And Morgan State going to Richmond and beating a team that was ranked in the top 25 in the FCS rankings is no small feat. Went there, held them down on defense. So I think the top 3 teams are pulling away from the other teams, and I think it's going to be a real battle in the MEAC between Howard, Central, and Morgan. But we'll just have to see how that goes. But Morgan took a step in the right direction, going to Richmond and winning that game. On the FBS ranks, it really wasn't many games that I highlighted because, there was a lot of teams playing lower competition, and the blowouts happened like you would think they would. Colorado beats TCU. That was one game that I highlight. Shador had a great game. Shador threw for over 500 yards, breaking the school record, had 4 touchdowns. Travis Hunter is, as advertised, playing both ways, had over 100 yards receiving and a pick. That is crazy in 2023 that he can play that many plays and play both ways like that. Colorado goes and beats number 17th ranked TCU in a high-scoring game. I mean, no defense was played in that game at all. And in my other game that we highlighted, North Carolina beats South Carolina 31-17. North Carolina really, in my eyes, kind of dominated that game and never was in real trouble with South Carolina. I think South Carolina's offense just really was lackluster and didn't come to play in that game in Charlotte. The takeaway from the FBS level is, just like everybody would think, Colorado is for real. Now, their defense is going to have to play better to win against some of the better teams in the Pac-12, but you're going to have to score to beat them. They have a fast-paced offense. They're going to put up points. Colorado is here, and Shador, like I said in episode 1, can be on the Heisman watch list. Yesterday was a Heisman moment. You go to Texas and beat the national runner-ups on a team that you was a 20-point underdog to, break a school record. That is a Heisman moment. That sticks in the mind of people. They play Nebraska at home next week. He has another good game. I think that after seeing them against TCU, Nebraska is a winnable game. I don't think Nebraska is that great. So shout out to Coach Prime. I'm still not the biggest fan of the coaching tactics, but hey, if it works, it works. The offense looks amazing. The defense had a key stop when they needed it. And they're here to stay. I mean, say what you want to say. He overhauled the roster. He said the luggage was Louis, and they came out there. And played. And Travis Hunter is crazy athletic. I mean, how do you play that many plays, make a pick, have over 119 yards rushing? 119 yards receiving. That is crazy. I mean, it's not really much more you can say about his ability. You can see why he was the number one player coming out of high school. And, these guys came from the Hbcu ranks, a lot of them, even the running back, some of the offensive line, some of the defensive players, all came from the FCS ranks and came to Power 5, and they dominated. So, shout out to Colorado. Great week of football. Hey, week 1 is always fun. Week 2 is also going to be fun. It's a lot of rivalries happening. Some of the games I'll be highlighting, it's Central and A&T are playing in a big rivalry game. Of course, I will be at the Battle of the Bay against Norfolk State and Hampton, and we will see how that goes. So it's big rivalries next week. Still on tap today, because I am recording this on Sunday. You still have the Orange Blossom Classic with Jackson State and FAMU, and you still have a big matchup between LSU and Florida State. So still good football games this Sunday. But far as from what I saw, the recap of week 1, I think it's going to be a very competitive. It's going to be a lot of upsets this college football season, and a lot of excitement that college football always brings. So we're going to end it right there. Great episode this week. Had my pop stop by. We had a great conversation. Watched a lot of football this weekend. Remember, you can catch me every Monday on wherever you get your podcast. Just look up IDK, What I'm Talking About Sports Pod, because we really don't know what we're talking about here. And you can listen on Apple Pod, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. And don't forget to follow me at IDK Sports Pod 23 on Instagram, and don't be afraid to DM me some topics that you want to talk about. Again, I will talk about anything. Until next time, y'all be easy.